Yeah, so we're like, oh, hi, Alicia.
Hello. Hi.
How are you doing? How was your day?
I'm okay, not too bad. I had a roster day off today because I'm working on Saturday. Really
Yeah.
relaxed and chilled today.
Yeah, that's good. It's been months since we last saw each other.
I
But
know, March, right? For lectures.
yeah, yeah. How is it going with you? How is everything?
Everything's okay. I'm glad exams are over, results are out. So I can relax on the uni side now. It's just
Yeah,
the work-based competencies to do. So
yeah. Just still have some first year competencies to conclude or something?
I have so many. I am very thorough with like looking things up and researching and learning. So I need to understand. So when I understand, then it becomes easier to just submit the competencies. But I think it takes me a little bit longer than some people to understand.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of, because I was in an in-service post, so they already know me in the lab. So a lot of things, if they're having problems with the lab, because I was a section senior, they were coming to me to ask me to rectify things. So I didn't get a lot of time to do like competencies because I was always in the lab doing something.
For in-service STPs, I thought when you become an STP, then they give you the chance to focus on your STP work, and they reduce your burden for service work.
Yeah, so that's what it's supposed to be. I think it's down to the individual. So I'm not very good at saying no, and I always want to help. So if they come to me, it's that boundary where I should really set my boundaries and say, this isn't my role anymore. Could you go to another member of staff? But instead of saying that, I just say, okay, yeah, quickly, I'll help you. But I don't have any responsibilities in the lab. I'm just asked because I know a little bit more about what's going on.
Anyway,
My own fault.
we're going to get more background about that. So, because if I continue like this, the video is already getting longer. So, first of all, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Alisha. What else do you want to know? I was born in the Midlands, so in Warsaw. I started my career, so I went to university and I did biomedical science at uni. I went to King's College, but that was an accredited degree. So when I left uni, I couldn't go straight into the role of a biomedical scientist. I had to find somewhere to do my so you would have to do top-up modules first to become accredited and then find somewhere to do your registration. So I started as a medical assistant, or what they call a support worker in the labs. I just worked my way up. So I started as a band 2, just got the experience in the labs. And then I applied for a position in Dorchester where they gave me a trainee position. So a trainee position, you do your portfolio, and then once your training portfolio is completed, then you get your band 5. And then after I did that, I went and applied for a specialist role in Southampton. And then that's kind of how the story goes. I've been there ever since.
Wow. Wow. So, for you guys in biomedical science, I know that most people usually have that issue with accreditation. Is it that at the point of applying to the degree, it's not well stated on the school website, or people are just not aware if the degree is accredited or not?
No, it's not. It's not that it's not so well like mentioned on the school website. It's that nobody really understands the importance of it going into a degree. So when you choose your university, you'll look for your course, but you're not really looking to see whether it's accredited or non-accredited. So people just end up going to a location that they like and then figuring out that their degree is not accredited. So in my instance, I went to King's College because I really love London, and I went there for an open day, and my mum was like, oh my God, I can just see you here. I really fell in love with the university. And it wasn't until maybe the end of the first year, was it the end or midway through the first year? They said, we have to let you know that this degree is not accredited. And at that young age, you don't really understand what the meaning or why is that important, why are they telling us that. It's not until you complete your degree and then you start to apply for jobs, and then you find out your degree is not accredited. So then you have to go and do top-up modules. Well, you get your degree assessed by IBMS, and then they tell you what you're missing on your degree. So you have to send in your degree transcripts, and they will assess what modules will help you get to the level of accreditation, and then you obviously do those top-up modules in your own time. So I was doing mine while I was studying. No, sorry, I was studying while I was working in Warwick. So I was doing my top-up modules whilst I was in the lab assistant role. And then once you get your accreditation, once you get your certificate to say you've completed your top-up modules, then you can go on to apply for registration. So it does catch people out, but it's not at the fault of the students, I would say personally. And not a lot of information or awareness has been made for like students that are going into university, if they want to study biomedical science, to look out for that. And I don't think they really should still have unaccredited degrees, because it's really unfair.
Yeah, that's completely unfair. I don't think they should have that, because I had a little share of that when I did my masters. So
Yeah,
while I was coming, they made it look like if you have a degree in a different subject area, like my background is biochemistry, so they made it look like if I do a specialist module in another area, then I can get the HCPC license to practice as
right.
a scientist. And
Yeah,
that was what I had in mind. So I came in, then I picked immunology as my specialist. Then I think towards the end of our masters, then they're like, that information is wrong. You actually need to have a biomedical science degree, blah blah blah. Because I came from Nigeria, and the equivalent of biomedical science in Nigeria, they call it medical lab science. So those are the people that were able to get the license, but the rest of us, you just have to sort yourself out. But that's not fair. I think they should stop selling that narrative to people.
yeah, that's how they get people, and they trick people out, because they want that. Obviously the courses cost money, so they're getting the funding. So it's, yeah, they catch a lot of people out with that. It's not fair.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about the STP. So you're a first year trainee in histopathology, right?
Yeah.
And you're an in-service STP trainee.
Yes.
Okay, so I've not interviewed any in-service STP. They've all been direct entries, and I'm also direct entry. So
Yeah.
yeah, please, can you talk us through how the in-service STP works and what it's all about?
Yes. So I've never gone through the direct entry route, but I have heard it is a vigorous process. It's really difficult. So I take my hat off to everybody who went through the direct entry, because I know there's people that have gone through it multiple times. So it's not an easy path. So for me, when I look at the in-service pathway, it seems like it was quite easy in comparison. So it was almost as if the trust had applied to have an STP, and they can decide whether they want it in service or if they want direct route. So sometimes Southampton will have multiple positions, and they will be some in service and some direct entry. And this year they just had just in service, and the year I applied was just in service. So what they do is, obviously they get the funding, don't they, to have STP, and then they will advertise to say we've got an STP position available. And because it's in service, it only goes to individuals within the hospital can apply. So anybody in the trust, it doesn't matter what discipline you're in. You can be a nurse, you could be in a different pathology discipline, you can still apply. So we had someone from microbiology 2 years above me who applied in service, and he got the position. So as long as you're within the trust and you're working in the trust, you can apply for the service role. So it just comes out like any job application. You go on, I think it was Track at the time, you go onto Track, fill out your application, and then it goes to shortlisting. So the shortlisting is done by people within the Department of Histopathology. So it'll be like my managers or some of the seniors. So I applied. I think the application came out towards the end of February, and the closing date was probably the 1st of March. So I'm in an RN. I didn't know whether I wanted to do the STP or not. And I thought, oh, I'll just go for it. I don't know what's there to lose. So I spoke to a few of the consultants, and they're like, you're very bright, you can do it if you put your mind to it. And I was like, okay, I'll try. So I applied really last minute. I think the deadline was 12 o'clock on the 1st of March. And my application went in at 11:45, something like that. It's really, really last minute. Once your application goes in, it's then shortlisted, and then they'll call you back for an interview. And in the interview, you'll have a set of questions that you have to answer. And this time they do a presentation. So the presentation was to present a case study, so like a case study, but an STP case study on any pathology, so any patient sample that we've received in the lab. So we had to find, I would say, something that we found interesting, a case that we found interesting. And so I sat down with one of the neuropathologists, because we don't get to do a lot of neuropathology within histopathology. So I sat down with one of the neuropathologists, and he gave me a case study that was really good. So then he gave me all the background history of the patient, and then we looked at the histology together, and then I had to put that into a presentation to simply present it as part of the interview. So when you get into the interview, they ask you whether you want to do your questions first, or the application, or the presentation. So I chose to do the presentation just to get it out of the way. I went on and did the questions, and that was really it. After the interview, obviously they're gonna talk amongst themselves and find out who they want to award the position. It's very competitive because there's many people in histopathology who don't have their registration. So if they don't have their registration, this is another way to get onto the register, HCPC register. So because there was a lot of competition, obviously they took their time, and I think they let us know the week after, and then that was it.
Wait, that's not fair. It's honestly not fair. You have no idea what we went through.
I know, I'm so
Oh my god, I'm just geez. We take the situational judgment test, which is one of the weirdest tests on earth. Then you and it's not enough that you take the test and you just know the feedback. You have to wait for like a month plus. And that's the most painful part of it. Will I get in? Will I not get in? Then you get shortlisted and you have to wait for like a month plus to know if you get an interview or not. And after the interview, you have to wait again. So geez, I envy you. You
I'm
like oh
so
my god.
sorry. I know. The situational judgment test we didn't have to do. And we didn't have to go through long listing. It was just short listing. I know. That's why I take my hat off to everyone who does the direct route entry, because I know it's not easy. I know.
That's really cool. But for you guys that come in, I know you've mentioned before that you're kind of struggling with your current position as an STP and your previous role and all that. But usually, if you start your role as an STP, you're expected to stop every other service work and just go into it.
Yeah. That's
Then
what happened with me. So they took me off. So I had to hand over everything. So they employed because I would be on a secondment for 3 years. They then employed somebody on a fixed term contract for 3 years to fill my position. So then I had to hand over all my responsibilities in the lab to that person, and it's just focusing on STP.
yeah, talking about that, for in-service STP, it means you are guaranteed a job after the STP, right?
So with me, I'm guaranteed my previous job. So I'm on secondment, so it means I'll go back down to so it was a main lab section lead. That position should be there for me. But anything that if I want to progress upwards, so like band 7 or band upwards, I would have to apply for. So I'm not guaranteed a position there. And it's only what's available. So we've got some STPs who are currently finishing their program this year. And there's 4 of them in one cohort for our trust. And only one of them has managed to stay, but not in her previous role. She had to apply for the band 7 role, so she's now in the band 7 role. So it's not guaranteed.
Wow. Well, anyway, then I was gonna ask another question. Okay, so in your previous role, were you a band 6 or a band 7?
I was a band 6.
So coming to the STP, is it still are you still getting your previous salary, or did you have to start on the lower band 6 salary for the STP?
No, I had already had 2 years in service. So because I already had 2 years in service, they just carried on. Yeah, I
Okay.
had to go back down.
Yeah, I asked because I know about some direct entry candidates that were already over 2 years as band 6 and coming to the STP. I think they had some funding questions and challenges, and I think they had to go on from the lower band 6 salary because that's what the direct entry STP
Advertise.
was. Anyway, let's.
Yeah, I probably would have challenged that, because if you've already got in service and you're going to a new job, even if you weren't going to the SCP but you're going to a new job, I'm sure you can negotiate your start pay. So I think it's really at the discretion of the managers in that trust whether they want to start you at the bottom of the band or to continue progressing through the bands. I know one really special case who had been doing dissection before in histology before doing the STP, and the work was the equivalent of a band 7. So he's being paid band 7 whilst on the STP, and that's a very rare
Wow,
situation.
that's very rare indeed. So let's get into your specialty, histopathology.
Okay.
So yeah, can you briefly take us through what your specialty is about?
Okay, so histopathology is the study of tissue pathology, so cells as well, because we do cytology. Not everywhere does cytology, but we have a cytology department, a non-gynae cytology department. So that's more the study of cells and the progression of disease. And then we do tissue, so that can be anything from lung, liver, bowel, breast, skin. And it's just really sometimes it's not the disease state, but sometimes it's to see whether you've got any inflammation. It's just really to get to the cause of something that is causing the patient some discomfort and why. A lot of the time it is due to tumours or lesions that are present. So yeah, it's just really just taking the samples from the patient and then diagnosing them. But the consultants will look at them under the microscope and then diagnose them.
Okay, so yeah, I did a histopathology rotation, and throughout my stay there, I didn't meet any clinical scientists. So they are mostly biomedical scientists and the consultant histopathologist and then other technical staff. So, what can you take us through what the role of a clinical scientist in histopathology is?
Yeah, it's very rare. I think it's quite a recent thing to have clinical scientists in histopathology, just because I don't think there was a specific role for them. So what we're trying to do now, progressing, is consultants are becoming quite overloaded with work, as we all know, across the country. What they're trying to do is to move some of the roles from the consultants to the clinical scientists to free their time for the reporting. So there's not a really defined role. I don't think there's a defined role for clinical scientists in the pathology like there is in other disciplines. But it's mostly, it will be very heavily dissection based. So you're taking the responsibility of doing, even if it's still simple, benign cases. That's what I'm starting with. We start with like benign cut up of specimens, just to free the consultants up to do reporting. And there is an aspect as well for you to sit with the consultants and do reporting as well, because after the STP, many people go on to do like advanced diplomas in certain specialities like gynae or skin, and then that they'll just focus on those specialities and do the reporting there. But you have to go through a little bit more training, sort of similar to the STP, but it'd be heavily sort of like gearing towards like the consultant responsibility of reporting. So yeah, I don't know if there's a defined role for the STP within histopathology as there is with other specialities. But it'll be a lot of dissecting, reporting, but I think you might have to do a lot of the reporting with consultants. And then I guess it would be just like leads, section leads, whether that's developing digital pathology systems in hospitals, because some hospitals are a little bit advanced, some of them are a little bit further behind. Yeah, just taking the lead on digital pathology or AI, whatever comes in with AI. So, yeah.
It might be, maybe it might be similar to immunology. I spoke to an immunology trainee and she mentioned something similar.
Okay.
Like there is no defined role of a clinical scientist
Yeah.
out there. So it's kind of like very it's like crossing a lot with the role of a biomedical scientist. So that is mostly dependent on what a particular trust wants a clinical scientist to do. So if they want a scientists and they put it out there and they state the specific responsibility, then that would be what the clinical scientists would do. But for the reporting side of it, in histopathology, any other person who is not a consultant allowed to do reporting?
I don't think we're allowed to sign off reports. I think they'll definitely have to be co-signed. We can sit with consultants and go through and probably populate, but I don't think we can report on our own. Not I know of, but I might be wrong. So maybe when I get to the end of the STP, yeah, we'll catch up and then I'll inform you correctly of that. But as far as I'm aware, I think you have to do advanced training before you could report.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Then I don't know if you've had a look at your second year and your third year curriculum. Is it also mostly around the dissection as well, like the competencies and what you'll be expected to be doing?
Yeah, so the competencies now will be focusing on dissection. So I think it's like the basics of pathology to start off with. And then the third year will be like more complex and malignant cases. So we are just taking our time to work through just different parts of I would say, each system. So each biological system, whether that's GI, whether that's respiratory, and we'll just take our time. And yeah, I think we have to have a certain amount we have to provide evidence of us dissecting specific specimens in each speciality. So I think that's what I haven't looked at it too much. I looked at it briefly this week and got a little bit excited, but then I was like, I need to slow down because I've still got first year one.
Oh my god. Oh my god, I'm glad I'm not the only one. I just go over there, I peep through the second year, and I get very excited. I'm like, you need to calm down, you need to feel
Even the results have come out and it's like, congratulations, you can progress. I'm like, yeah, but I still got so much to do that I need to focus before. So now, but actually it's really good because it's given me incentive to get the first ones done. So if I can get the first years done, then I've got loads of time to like focus on second year. It's good incentive. It's good incentive.
But how has first year been so far? What rotations did you do? And what exactly are you trying to round up now to get into second year?
Okay, so first year's been really good. I absolutely loved. So my first rotation was in cytology. So that's the study of cells under the microscope. I absolutely loved my rotation in cytology because I came out of uni. I was fresh out of uni. We have learned all these things in uni, and it was like the senior of cytology hadn't done the course, but everything he was teaching me, all the buzzwords were coming back, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, I learned that in uni. That's great. The cytology section lead is extremely knowledgeable. He's so good. So I was really enjoyed learning. The first year as a whole, okay, I would say it would have a few challenges because of the crossover between my previous role, and that's my fault because I have to have the confidence to be like, I'm really sorry, I can't help you with this because I've got my own things to do. But I think I'm just too nice. But the whole year it's been good. I feel like there's a little bit more freedom. I feel more relaxed within the STP than the pressures of the main lab. It's so hard, especially as we're short staffed and the volume of work is just coming in. So I've really enjoyed the first year. Really enjoyed the first year. So apart from the cytology rotation, I also did rotation in molecular pathology. Now that was really interesting because I feel like I had to do a lot more reading around before I did any of my competencies because I just needed to understand. So it was completely a new topic for me. Like I had some idea of like the markers they were looking for, but the practical side behind it was completely a new concept to me. So it was interesting. It was really interesting, but it was very, very challenging. And then when it came to the exam, oh my God. I sat in those lectures in March and everything was going over my head and I was sitting there and I was just in awe of all the questions, even yourself, that you're asking. And I was like, how do they know all this stuff? But I'm so glad I actually surprised myself. I did better in my molecular pathology than I did in my histo. So that was interesting. I do like molecular. The other rotations I did was just histology. So I already had some histology experience. So that would just be like your basic specimen receipt, your dissection, your processing, your embedding, and then just slide checking, quality checking, and get it out to the consultants. And the last rotation I did, which I didn't think I was going to enjoy, was digital pathology, just because I thought, oh, it sounds a bit boring. Because when I was in my old position, we had a lot of the responsibility of trying to validate and get it the surface. Well, not that much responsibility, but we were involved in the process of making sure that the way that we quality check our slides was efficient. So we had to make sure that, because it was a whole new process, we could produce the same quality as we did for just block checking your slide and your block, but this had a little bit more steps because we're now checking the quality of the images. So yeah, I just saw that there was a lot of demand on the lab from digital pathology, but not really seeing the other side of digital pathology until I did my rotation. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I've enjoyed my first year.
Yeah, I talking about digital pathology. That was the most exciting part of my histopathology rotation. Yeah, I found it really amazing, and I tried to imagine what the lab was before digital pathology. That must have been a lot for you guys.
Yeah.
Then in our lab here in Nottingham, they are validating a lot of AI stuff, and I'm really enthusiastic about AI. So I'm like, whoa, our lab is so there. Like they're doing so many things, and wow, they were really good. I really enjoyed my histopathology rotation as well because. Yeah, when I started the STP, I wasn't working in an NHS lab, and I was really overwhelmed by the information I was getting from our lab, the abbreviations, the genes, molecular, it was driving me crazy. And
Yeah.
the histopathology was just like a break to like, because we had done the uni part, and
Yeah.
the terms were sounding easier, and they were more like very friendly, and it was a bigger and open lab, unlike our lab that like it's very specialized test. So they allowed me to do some very simple tasks, and I was feeling very useful.
Yeah.
So when I go back to our lab after histopathology rotation, I kind of felt a bit more relaxed and into it. So it kind of, I feel histo unlocked something that I don't know.
Oh,
But
good. I'm
yeah,
glad. I love that.
yeah,
I
histo
love
have a
that.
special place in my heart. So
Oh.
yeah. So since you guys did the molecular part with us, so for your molecular rotation, what was it like? Did you have to go to the genomics department, and how deep or how far did you go with the molecular side?
No, we didn't get to go to the genomics. So I did. We have like a big hub called Salisbury that we send most of our specimens to. But we also have our molecular pathology on site is a lot smaller, and I think they do more monitoring of diseases rather than like what they would do in Salisbury. So I didn't get to see much of. I don't think I got to see much of the genomic side. But what else? What else did you ask?
Yeah, but okay, then for the molecular competencies, then your presence in your lab, is it giving you enough evidence to write up the competencies?
Yeah, so the training officer in molecular pathology is really good. So before I even got there, she had a timetable with all the competencies and suggestions of what I should see in the lab to help me with those competencies. So there was enough for me to see within the lab on site for me to complete the competencies. So
Oh
I don't
yeah.
feel like I missed out on anything. I feel because it's just an introduction, I feel like I covered enough for it to be and met by the standards.
Yeah, that's cool then. And let's talk about balancing the STP. So the university part, the competencies, you as an in-service STP, that you have to be on the rota and you have people coming to you to ask you questions. So how are you balancing everything?
How am I balancing it? I feel like I have a lot more free time anyway with the STP. So I don't think it's that hard. The only thing that differs from my STP position is that we work Saturdays. So like today I've had a day off because I'm working a Saturday. That requires you to be doing something to contribute towards the service of histopathology. So before I started my dissection, I've only just started. Before I started, I only had the experience of what I did in my previous role. So whether that was embedding or cutting sections on my me or in send out doing quality checks of slides, that's where they would place me on a Saturday. But now that I've started my dissection, they're starting to rotate me. It's just anything that they can do to help with the service of the running of the service on the Saturday. But apart from that, competencies, I think I focus more on university work than I did on my competencies. That's what took most of my attention because I felt competencies, they can come back to you and you'll always get feedback and you'll always get to add things to your competencies. But with university, it's a pass and it's a fail. So I wanted to make sure I passed the university side. So that was my main focus. And then competencies, I just get guidance. So that's probably why I'm a little bit behind. That's how I balanced it. I don't know if anybody balanced it any other way.
For someone like me, the competencies I kind of do them at work as well, because of course I'm direct entry and I'm not competent to do. You know how the NHS lab is. You can't just go in there and start doing something. You have to be. Maybe that's why yours is different, because you are competent. You've been signed up. You know how to do all those things. I don't know how to do those things. I've not been signed up in anything. So I kind of spend most of my time at work. Probably I come in the morning, look at the competencies, try to like find out, okay, I need to watch this in order to write this. So that way I know what I need to watch. Like I'm currently doing minimal residual diseases. So I'm watching a lot of PCRs, qPCRs. So I'm shadowing the technologies, but I can't do it because to do it, you need to be signed up. So yeah, probably
Yeah.
that's how a direct entry differs from an in-service STP,
Yeah.
probably. But for I was going to ask you another question. I forgot.
Just off the back of that, I think you are right because when I did my molecular pathology rotation, obviously I hadn't been signed off to do anything. So a lot of it was just observing. So yeah, you're completely right. I spent more time doing competencies then than I did in histopathology, where I'd be more hands-on and getting, because they know me, they'll get me to, just, I don't know, just book this in or transfer this case or anything. That's what it would be like for me. So maybe I didn't get so much time to myself in the beginning because I was already always rotated. I wasn't a part, you're not included in the rota, in the numbers, but you are put on the rota as in where you're going to be. Yeah. And I know for the STPs, so I've got 4 STPs 2 years above me, so they're graduating this year. 2 of them were direct route, 2 of them were in service. And all of them, I don't think were as sort of involved in the lab, was hands-on, whereas I would jump on a microtome and I'd cut some sections. They would just do their sections as part of their rotation, and I don't think they've done any since. So I think
Yeah.
it depends on the trust or the managers within the trust, how they want to utilise you. So maybe I can't say no, and I like to help. So if there's a need, I'm gonna say yes because I can do it. If there's no one else around, yeah, why not?
Anyway, we'll see how that goes
I know.
when you get your STP project, because I heard that takes bulk of the time. So I don't know. You might have to learn how to say no.
I know. I'm going to have to learn. I definitely have to learn to say no, but I'm excited for the project. Have you got
Anyway,
any ideas about what you want to do for yours?
I don't have any idea. The last time I had a meeting with my training officer, so he said the senior management team within the service, they need to meet to decide what they might want me to do. But if I feel there's an area or something I'm interested in, they're happy to hear me out, and we might work something out really. But honestly, I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know. Maybe they might give me options to pick, but when I get there, I'll figure it
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Okay,
You've got time. You've got
Yeah. So my next question is going to be what a typical day in your life is like. I always ask that question because most people that chat me on Instagram, they always like they want to know because as a trainee, you are not qualified yet. You're not you don't have a license and all that. So they really want to know when we go to work, what do we do and all that. So I kind of just gave you a glimpse of what I'm doing currently, like observing and doing all that. So for someone like you, what is a typical day in your life like? Or if a day will not cover it, maybe a typical week in your life, what is it like?
So I would say now a typical day would be it would be different from my so when I first started the STP, but then I am in service, so you've got to bear that in mind. But now my typical day, so when I was on my rotations, it would be I'd just go into that area and do a lot of observing. So whether that is in cytology, watching them book in samples, watching them prep samples, watching them stain samples, watching them QC samples, watching them send out samples. If that was DP, it would be doing the activities for that area. So DP would be your daily setup, loading slides onto the scanning machines. It would be sort of organizing your time in that specific area to make sure you're getting the workload through and keeping everybody in the department happy because they've got their slice to send out to the consultants. When I was doing my histology rotation, it would be well, whatever area, so whether it was embedding, I'd be helping with the service. So I wasn't really observing, I was probably doing more. But now, as my rotations have finished and I'm focusing, we were sort of in that period of the end of first year and progressing into second year where you can use this time to tie up any of your outstanding work. So it'll be getting into work, sitting down at your laptop, setting up your laptop or your competencies and seeing what you want to do for that day. So if I'm about to do a competency and I see that it's a competency where I have to display I understand an aspect, whether it's in DP, I go into DP and do what I need to do to get that competency done. So the other day I sat down, I did some competencies. But I was like, I need to show that I know how to look at the quality of the slides before we put them on the scanner. So I ran into DP, did a quick video in there, and I spoke to the person who was running DP. And I said to my colleague, do you mind just doing a quick video to film me, help me? And he said yes. And we got it done. So then I went back. You've got a lot of free time because you are supernumerary, you're not part of the numbers. So I'm just spending time really catching up on my competencies at the moment.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when you make a video, do you upload it directly to one file or you attach it to maybe the Word file or the whatever you are working?
Sometimes I put it into a presentation and then I probably do either sort of a voice note over it or I'll annotate over it and then I'll submit the whole presentation as a document. But you have to be really careful because if it's too large, you can't upload it onto one file. So I try and keep them really short. And obviously you've got to omit any patient details because we can't have patient details omitted, uploaded. So yeah, I try and keep it really, really short. And then I keep my presentation maybe a little bit more detailed. But I feel I might be doing a little bit too much. I don't know.
Well, with the level of experience you have, I don't think you're doing too much. Okay, so I usually ask for advice for persons that are applying, but since you're an in-service STP, so okay, what advice do you have for first-year starters, persons that will be starting the STP next September? What advice do you have for them about maybe how to start off with the STP and how to balance everything without getting burnt out as well?
Okay. How to get started? I would say, first of all, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Yes, it might seem like a lot to start with, but just enjoy it. Take your time. There's no rush. I would personally focus on the university side and making sure that you pass the university side, but then don't get so lapsed that you forget about your competencies. Try and keep on top of your competencies as well. I would say just enjoy it because a lot of people go in with this pressure of, I've got to do this and I've got to do that and I've got this and that. Just enjoy it. That's the only thing I can say. Just enjoy it. I know I can't give much advice for people who are doing the direct route entry and what skills or things they should get involved in. But I said if you're in service, if you're already in an NHS job position and you want to go for it, sometimes I feel you have a little bit more of an advantage because you've already got some of the skills that they're looking for. So some of the skills you're going to have a better understanding when it comes to the STP, when it comes to your university, and they're talking about well, for me, histology, they're talking about how specimens are received in the lab. You're going to have a little bit more knowledge. You're going to have a little bit more skill set as well. So I do think it's good if you have an experience. So if you're in service, you have that experience to then apply for the STP. But I won't say going the direct route is there's any less of advantage. I still feel you'll get the course is so good that you'll still get all the skills that you need to progress. But just enjoy it. Just enjoy it.
Yeah, okay. Then what is one thing you wish you knew before you started the STP?
One thing I wish I knew. I wish I had a little bit more guidance with uploading things to one file. I wish I had a little bit more guidance in how to present sort of competencies, and knowing that you can use one evidence to tackle multiple like criteria of the competencies. So you could use something from histopathology, something from molecular, and something from cytology. You can all tie together with one. So it's really, so.
Wait, you're gonna teach me something now, really?
So I heard, so if I'm doing something like an MDT or attending MDT where they talk about molecular pathology, if they've scanned the slides in and that's another competency, why can't I use that competency, that one evidence for multiple competencies? Instead of doing 10 competencies for everything, I try and look for a link where I can say, actually, that goes really well with that, and I'm displaying I can cover this competency, this competency, and this competency with just this evidence.
Oh my god, for the MDT part that you mentioned, I've had to write is it about 4 different MDT competencies? I wrote one for cancer genomics, I wrote one for histopathology. I just wrote one recently for the professional practice where they said participate in multiple. I could have used one evidence.
Well, I don't. That's what I would do, and I heard you can do it, but I would double check. Ask your
Training
trainer
officer.
officer. But yeah, I heard you can like compact your competencies down, so you're not doing again 3 pieces of work for the same thing where you could have just done one work and used it for all 3 competencies.
Yeah, I just know that within a particular module, you can have one evidence for multiple competencies, like within histopathology. I don't know if it's the same competency with you guys, but they kept repeating observe microtomy, observe this. So I just use one evidence for all of them, but I'll definitely double check if I can.
I might be doing it wrong, so then you can come back and tell me, actually, Alisha, you can't do that. But yeah.
Yeah, anyway, that's right. Oh my god, it's been so nice speaking with you. And it's been really cool hearing from you again. And thank you so much for doing this with me.
That's okay.
I
For having
really,
me.
I really appreciate your help and your support. So thank you very much.
That's okay. Thank you for having me. I hope it was informative.
Of course, I'm sure it was informative, especially because this is our first in-service STP, our first section that has an in-service STP information. So yeah, I'm sure persons that are looking for that information will definitely find this video informative. So yeah, thank you very much.
That's okay.
All right, so